torsion springs, and they would hold this closed, and then they would bend open. But I decided, especially after talking to some people, that this would be like, could be very fragile as well. And it seemed as though this first idea could work pretty well. So moving on, this was the next iteration. So this one like completely encompasses the hand. And so something that like happened at first was like increasing the surface area of the plastic on the hand because I thought that would make it more stable. So this one's like a plastic glove, or like boxing glove almost. And then it has a similar mechanism of attaching with the bottom slot and the top slot. And then I moved on to this, which is starting to get, starting to get closer to my, I guess it's like in the realm of my final design, which is just having a top piece and a longer slot to hold the utensil. And then getting, well, not necessarily getting rid of the bottom piece, but minimizing it quite a bit. Because now I'm starting to realize that like maybe too much like surface area isn't necessarily good, especially given that we don't really, we know the dimensions of Mr. K's hand, but it's good to be more flexible with it. So then I went to this design, which is my first model that I printed, which is here. So this model has a thumb screw, and how the thumb screw mechanism works is that there's a like built-in slot for a nut, and the thumb screw goes through, twists through the nut, and there's like a hole all the way through here. So they keep each other in place and twist, and it works very well. And so the idea is that a fork or utensil comes through here, and this screws in. And it's also also another thing I haven't mentioned is that it's on now it's on an angle, which I thought was important because when you hold a fork, usually it's like out from your hand, but it's also at an angle kind of down, or a spoon. So this is my first model for print, and you can also notice that it covers all the sides of his palm. And here's some images. So here we can see the mechanism. I put a pad here as well. And then I tried, and I'll get back to this in a minute, I tried softening the end of this screw tip, but that was very difficult. So that's something I started brainstorming about. And then there's Velcro straps going along the bottom that stabilize the hand. So here's a video of me scooping oatmeal with a spoon with a device. So I was able to attach it pretty firmly to my hand, even though it kind of fits awkwardly because my hand is different. But I was able to scoop up oatmeal pretty well. But I did gain some information especially from doing that. So first off, the bottom piece is not necessary. But given that, like, this device works like it works. Like, I don't see any issue with it other than like functional issue, I guess. Like it can be improved, but at least at like the very least, it could probably work. But that being said, there is one like big issue, and that's that the thumb screw scratches silverware. So to tighten, this is able to hold silverware very like firmly, even with just one thumb screw. But it has to like screw into that silverware basically, and it's like metal screwing into metal, and that's like ends up scratching the silverware. So my ideas are like, at first I tried adding like a softer tip, but that wasn't really effective, and it's hard to like screw it in with a softer tip or add one after in this like narrow space as well. So from there, and I'll get into this more in a bit, I added a second thumb screw and a plate between them and the utensils, so that it's the thumb screws are screwing in like a plate, right? That's sliding against it and compressing it against the other wall. That plate could also be, have some soft material on it, and that would not scratch the utensil. By also like kind of spacing out the force, I guess. So another like things, or that the stability could be improved of the utensil in other ways. So adding a wall. So here the slots open, and the fork would, it wouldn't. I mean, or the spoon, like it would. I never really found it moving, but it could move, and so adding that wall in front here could help that. And then, like I mentioned, adding a second thumb screw in the little device I just explained. And then unnecessary material on the side. I don't really see, especially after using it, like any reason to have this, like these sides, and just have like a thing on the top and Velcro going around. So here's my next design that I did before receiving this. I did this after sending in the prior design, but before actually receiving it. So actually, like I ended up, I guess, foreshadowing a lot of the problems I would have. So I added another thumb screw, and this offered a unique, I guess, opportunity to like, because then it requires two nuts, and so I can't just have like a slot in the top. It needs to go in from the side so that there can be a wall between them. And so I didn't want, well, while the nuts won't fall out if there's a thumb screw in, they could, like stuff like food could get lodged in there or something, which would be nasty. So I made this, I guess at this point it's like a dovetail joint, and that like slides in to cover that. And then remove the bottom plate, as I mentioned. And then I also got rid of the far side. So I still have this side of the device, but I got rid of the far side over here. So now that I had the device, I had identified all the problems I wanted to fix, I came to my final design, or my final design for now, and that was to remove both sides. So I removed this side as well. And then I changed and I have more pictures of this, but I changed the nut covering to not only cover the nut, but to go around and become this plate that these thumb screws can put, these thumb screws screw against, and that in this slot they compress the utensil and hold it in place. So here's, I guess, all the components, and I hope you can imagine this going into the slot, and it can run down here, and then these screws like kind of pushing it into the utensil. So I'll just like a little cost analysis, which I thought was interesting. So the price of the 3D printed parts using the cheapest material is $84.50. Thumb screws is around $13, and everything else is really cheap. So it comes out to about $100, which I guess at first maybe is surprisingly expensive, but like given everything, or given how expensive prosthetics are, like it's extremely cheap. And so this was interesting, and also just getting to look at all the other materials out there that, I mean, I don't really know like what, like there's like sandstone, and I don't know like what that would even be like to have a sandstone hand. But anyways, so plans moving forward. So I've only received one model so far, and I'm hoping to receive, or I'll send the next one and hopefully get it soon. And I'm hoping that it's almost near finished, but there could be a lot of changes, especially this plate mechanism, because I don't know, it might just need like small adjustments to fit, but maybe it won't work either. That's something I just need to test out. Also, and then another thing that became concerning, I guess, like recently, that I haven't really given a lot of thought to, is how if the vise actually got in the way of like eating by like banging into a bowl or the table or whatever. And so, I mean, getting rid of the sides helps that, but this part in front, I've only made larger. Here, I've only made larger, so I'm concerned that this could like get in the way of like a bowl. So I'll have to test that out. And then also looking more into the angle, I kind of just made an arbitrary angle. So thinking more about that could be helpful. I mean, I think it seems helpful, but it also seems like having no angle would be helpful, which is kind of counterintuitive. But like when I'm eating, when I'm eating with the device, it seems almost harder to like get it up to my mouth, like by twisting your wrist, rather than like with a fork. I mean, the fork, it's actually, you're even like holding it even more down, but I guess you kind of make like micro adjustments to lift it up. So that's just something to think about. And then lastly, like, is it comfortable? So in here, I've got, and in this model, I've added like a curve in here that hopefully makes it more comfortable. But I just putting like foam on the inside as well. So I think that's everything. Thank you everyone for coming and helping us all along the way.